You know that feeling when you're walking into a place and it just screams, "This is not gonna go well"? Yeah, that was me, standing outside the immigration office at 9 a.m. The sun was already blazing, my shirt was sticking to my back, and I was clutching a folder stuffed with every possible document they could ask for. Birth certificate, tax forms, proof of employment. Hell, I even had my middle school report card in there just in case someone decided to get cute. My name's Michael Jones. I'm 32, Nigerian. And apparently public enemy number one for some folks. I came to the US 5 years ago, thinking I'd find opportunities and freedom. What I found was a never-ending game of proving I deserved to stay here. Honestly, the only thing I've done wrong is exist. But hey, try telling that to the people who run the system. The immigration office looked like a DMV and a prison had a baby. Dull beige walls, metal detectors, and that constant buzz of fluorescent lights that make you feel like you're under interrogation even when you're just sitting there. People were packed in like sardines. Moms trying to keep their kids from climbing the furniture, tired faces clutching stacks of papers. It was a melting pot of desperation, and I was one of them. When they called my number, my stomach did a backflip. This was it. I walked up to the counter, and that's when I met her. Let me set the stage for you. Short, sharp haircut, a pearl necklace tight enough to choke her, and a name tag that read Karen Harper. Of course it did. Name? She snapped without even looking up. Michael Jones, I said, trying to sound confident. She finally glanced up, and let me tell you, the look on her face was like I'd walked into her living room uninvited and sat on her favorite couch. Documents, she barked, holding out a hand like I was handing over contraband. I slid the folder across the counter, watching as she flipped through it with the enthusiasm of someone grading a term paper. After what felt like an eternity, she slammed it shut and gave me a tight-lipped smile that wasn't fooling anyone. "You're missing Form I-765, she said. "No, I'm not," I said, pulling out the form like a magician revealing a rabbit. "It's right here." She took it, examined it for about 2 seconds, and then looked back at me like I'd just handed her a cocktail napkin. "This is incomplete," she declared. "What? No, it's not," I protested. I'd triple-checked that thing last night, even Googled a few YouTube tutorials to make sure I wasn't screwing it up. She sighed dramatically, the kind of sigh that says, "I've already decided you're a problem and now you're wasting my time." "You used blue ink. It has to be black," she said, tossing the form back at me like it was trash. "Are you kidding me? Black ink? What the hell does that even matter?" But I bit my tongue because let's face it, she had the power here. So I shuffled off to the corner like a scolded child and started filling out the form again with a pen she begrudgingly handed over. Sitting there, hunched over that tiny desk, I could feel her eyes on me. Every few minutes she'd glance over and smirk like she was daring me to mess up again. It was infuriating. Meanwhile, people in the waiting area were starting to notice. A middle-aged man with a baseball cap whispered something to his wife, who shook her head with a mix of pity and discomfort. By the time I finished rewriting the damn form, my hand was cramping and my patience was hanging by a thread. I walked back to the counter, slapped the form down, and forced a smile. "Here, all fixed." Karen didn't even flinch. She picked up the form, scanned it for about 3 seconds, and then, "Oh, you're gonna love this," found something else to nitpick. "You didn't initial here," she said, tapping the corner of the page with her manicured nail. "Are you serious?" I blurted out before I could stop myself. Her smile was so fake it should have come with a warning label. "Do I look like I'm joking?" At that point, I was ready to snap. My voice was shaking when I said, "Look, I've been sitting here for an hour. I've done everything by the book. Can you just process my papers?" Her eyes narrowed, and she leaned in slightly, lowering her voice just enough to sound menacing. "People like you always think they can get around the rules. Not on my watch." That was it. I felt my blood boiling. My fists clenched around the counter, and for a split second I considered saying something that would have definitely gotten me escorted out by security. But instead I took a deep breath, stepped back, and said, "Fine, I'll fix it." I grabbed the form and walked back to my little corner, my hands trembling with anger. Karen was watching me the whole time, her grin as smug as a cat that just knocked over a glass of water. And that's when I realized something. This wasn't about rules or procedures. She wanted to make this as hard as possible for me. And I wasn't going to let her win. Let me tell you something. There's a special kind of rage you feel when someone decides you're their personal punching bag. And Karen? She was putting on a damn performance, and I was the unlucky co-star. After rewriting that damn form, triple-checking every line, I went back to her. "All done," I said, forcing a smile so hard my cheeks hurt. She snatched the paper, gave it her signature 2-second glance, and then, boom, another problem. "You didn't include your previous employer's address," she said, like she just solved a murder mystery. "I wasn't required to," I replied, my voice tight. Her fake smile was back. Well, it's missing, so I can't process this. Rules are rules. At this point, I was convinced she was making this up. But what could I do? Argue? And risk her calling security? Nope. I played along, went back to my corner, and filled out the damn form again. When I came back, she didn't even try to hide her amusement. Oh, you're back again? Determined, aren't we? Just trying to do things right, I said, though I was one eye roll away from losing it. She took her time this time, flipping through my folder like it was a romance novel. Then with a dramatic sigh, she said, "Oh dear, this ID photo doesn't meet our specifications. Your head's too big in the frame." I blinked. My head? What the fuck? I was trying to stay calm, but the room was spinning with her nonsense. "Karen, the photo came from your office last week," I shot back, barely keeping my voice steady. Her face twisted like she just smelled something bad. "Well, it's still not correct. You'll need a new one." By now, people in the waiting area were openly staring. A guy in a hoodie whispered, "Dude, this is some bullshit." And I couldn't have agreed more. I glanced around, hoping for a witness to back me up, but everyone looked away like I had the plague. I took out my phone and started recording. "Karen, can you please explain why every time I follow your instructions there's a new problem?" Her eyes narrowed. "Sir, it's against office policy to record." "Oh, I know," I said, holding the phone steady. "But it's not against my policy to protect myself." Her smirk vanished. She reached for the intercom and announced, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Security, please come to counter 3. As 2 guards approached, Karen leaned in close and whispered, "You're going to regret this." I didn't respond. My blood was boiling. But I kept recording. The guards didn't look thrilled about being dragged into Karen's power trip. "Is there a problem, ma'am?" one asked, already over it. "Yes," Karen said, feigning distress. "This gentleman is being disruptive and refuses to leave." I held up the folder in my phone. "I'm just trying to submit my paperwork, and everything I'm doing is on record." The guards exchanged a look, then one of them said, "Sir, let's step aside and talk." As I walked away with them, Karen's smug grin followed me. She thought she'd won, but oh, she had no idea what was coming. So there I was, standing in a corner with 2 security guards who looked more bored than concerned. One of them, let's call him Baldy, sighed and said, "Look, man, just tell us what's going on." I laid it out for them. Karen's ridiculous nitpicking, the endless rewrites, the photo complaint. Baldy rubbed his temples like I'd just told him his shift was getting extended. "Yeah, she can be intense," he muttered. The other guy smirked. That was all I needed to know. I wasn't the first person Karen had pulled this stunt on. But before we could dive deeper into Karen's greatest hits, a woman approached me, late 40s, sharp suit, big energy. "Excuse me," she said, holding up her phone. "I recorded what happened at the counter. That was completely inappropriate." I blinked. A random ally? In this economy? "Thank you," I said, shaking her hand like we'd just signed a peace treaty. Meanwhile, Karen was craning her neck, trying to see what was happening. Her glare could have melted steel. By the time I got home that evening, I was done. But then, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hi, Michael. I'm Joan Miller, an immigration attorney. I saw the video circulating online. Let's talk." Video? What video? Turns out my mystery ally had uploaded her footage to the internet. It was already blowing up. People were calling Karen everything from the Queen of Petty to Karenzilla. Comments poured in, some supportive, others just roasting her for sport. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about me anymore. Karen had been getting away with this for who knows how long. Now her smug little empire was starting to crack. The next morning, Joan called. "Michael, your case has gone viral. Reporters are already reaching out. I'd like to represent you pro bono." "Pro bono? Free lawyer?" "Hell yes." "Joan, you're my new favorite person," I said, half laughing. She didn't laugh back. "This is serious. The footage shows clear bias. Karen's behavior could get her in a lot of trouble." "Good. She deserved it." But I wasn't naive. I knew this wouldn't be easy. The system Karen represented didn't crumble just because of one viral video. Still, for the first time in years, I felt like the odds were finally shifting in my favor. When I walked into the hearing room, the tension was so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. Karen sat at the far end, her usual smugness replaced by something closer to fear. Her pearl necklace was still there. Guess old habits die hard, but today it looked more like a noose. Joan was by my side, armed with a stack of documents and the confidence of someone who eats bureaucracy for breakfast. "Michael," she said, leaning in, "stay calm. Let the evidence do the talking." The hearing started with Karen's defense, which was basically her claiming I was hostile and uncooperative. She even threw in a line about feeling threatened, for good measure. Classic Karen playbook. But then Joan pulled out the trump card, the video. "Let's review the footage," Joan said, her voice sharp enough to make the room go silent. The clip played, showing Karen's sarcastic comments, her ridiculous nitpicking, and of course her little people-like-you remark. The room shifted. Even the immigration board members looked uncomfortable. Karen's face turned redder with every passing second. When the video ended, Joan leaned back, looking as calm as a cat in a sunbeam. "This behavior is not only unprofessional, but it undermines the integrity of this office," she said. "My client came here seeking fairness, not prejudice." The board deliberated briefly before the chairperson spoke. "Mr. Jones, your application is approved, and Miss Harper will be conducting a full review of your conduct." Translation: Karen was toast. As I walked out, reporters swarmed me. "How do you feel about the decision?" one asked, shoving a mic in my face. I smiled. Something I hadn't done in a long time. "I feel like justice finally showed up." The video continued to trend for weeks, and Karen, she became the poster child for everything wrong with the system. Meanwhile, I got calls, job offers, speaking opportunities. For the first time in years, it felt like the world was opening up instead of slamming doors in my face. Karen might have thought she could bury me under paperwork and red tape, but she forgot one thing. You can't keep someone down who's got nothing left to lose. And now, I'm just getting started. The end.